Welcome to the video. Today I'm sharing with you everything I get at the grocery store for a lean bulking phase. So what I mean by that is that my main goals right now are to build muscle and get stronger. But I'm trying to do so while staying relatively lean. I'm really trying to avoid gaining a bunch of body fat during this phase. So for me, what I'm about to show you and all these foods that I get pretty much every week is not necessarily what you should get, but these are the foods that I like. These are the foods that help me hit my macros very consistently and help me enjoy the process as well. And for reference, the macros that I'm currently following are about 380 grams of carbs, 80 grams of fat, and 220 grams of protein. So that's right about 3,100 calories total. And if you're new here and you end up liking the video, consider subscribing to my channel because I give you new videos just like this every single week. All right, so one thing I get almost every week is this whole grain bread. I really like bread. I use it as toast. I use it with my eggs in the morning, sometimes making a sandwich. This one has 3 grams of fiber per slice, so that's pretty solid, so I go with this one. I'm a big fan of these Minute rice cups as well. Basically, each cup is giving you about a cup's worth of rice, and I like that because it's portioned out, and you just pop it in the microwave for a minute, and you can add it to any meal you eat. So to me, it's much more convenient and much more easy than trying to make rice, even if that does take only 10 or 15 minutes. For that reason, I highly recommend you always keep these around. Something we usually get as well are some form of bagels. I like to make like an egg sandwich in the morning with these. Again, not the healthiest option, but usually when I'm in a fat loss phase and I'm working with a lot less calories, I'll kind of leave this out and I'll stick with only the whole grain bread or English muffins, which are like half the amount of calories. So I've got 2 different forms of cereal here. This is a high fiber cereal. It's all bran Buds from Kellogg's. There's 17 grams of fiber in 1 serving of this. So I mix 1 serving of this with 1 serving of this Premier Protein cereal, which has 20 grams of protein, 14 carbs, and 5 fat. So it's pretty good, and I usually throw in a scoop of protein powder into the cereal and the almond milk as well, and it actually tastes really good, and you're getting a lot of fiber in. Now I've got some micronutrients. So I've got spinach here, a whole big bag of it, and some mushrooms, which I don't always get, but I've really liked using both of these with my egg whites because I usually make an egg white omelet in my first meal, and throwing in some vegetables, throwing in some mushrooms really adds more volume and more taste to it. Next up, I've got some protein. So I've got liquid egg whites here, which is just 5 grams of protein per serving, no fats at all, no carbs, and then regular whole eggs here. So I have both of these. They're both good. I have 2 or 3 of my whole eggs. I usually put them on the bagel, and on the side, I'll make that egg white omelet for just straight protein, an additional 20 or 30 grams of protein per day. I've got some fruit as well. I've got blueberries that I like to put in my yogurt, and some bananas, which I'll often have before my workout. Now here are my main protein sources for the week. I usually get 2 or 3 variations or options. First is ground turkey. I got 93% lean. Second is ground beef. I got 90% lean beef, which is really good. I usually get 96%, but because I've got 80 grams of fat to use, I find that I'm often low on fats at the end of the day. So I just went with a little bit of a fattier option here. And then I got ground chicken breast as well, which I'm new to, but I'm really liking it a lot. You can make stir fries from it. It tastes really good. It's much easier to cook, in my opinion, than regular chicken breast, or at least it's quicker. Then I've got these Mission Carb Balance whole wheat wraps. Now these are pretty big ones, and the reason I got these is because they're very high in fiber. I'm very much prioritizing my fiber intake because when you're eating a lot of carbs like I am, 380 per day, you want to try to make sure you're getting in most of your carbs from decent quality sources, right? Like the fruits, the vegetables, the rice, potatoes, which you'll see that I got as well. I try to, the bagel obviously isn't a high quality carb source. It's less nutritious, but that's really one of the only things that I'm getting that's not necessarily a healthier food. And these wraps here only have 6 grams of fat, 30 grams of carbs, 9 protein, but the reason I'm getting them is they have 25 grams of fiber per wrap. So what I do is I make sure that I'll either have this in my day or I'll have that high fiber cereal, and that way I can easily get in 35 or 40 grams of fiber per day, which is really what I'm aiming for. Next up, I've got some unsweetened almond milk here, which I use for my protein shakes and for my cereal. And then here we've got some creamer. Both me and Morgan will use this. In coffee, we'll use 1 or 2 servings of creamer, and I don't have coffee too often because I have a pre-workout before my workouts, a pre-workout drink. So I'll have a coffee a few times a week in addition to that. And the reason why I'm not going super crazy on coffee is because I'm trying to keep my caffeine under 400 milligrams per day. So if my pre-workout has 200 or 300 milligrams of caffeine, at most I'm gonna have a coffee in addition to that, but usually I just leave it at that and try to limit my caffeine in that way. Next up, I've got a bunch of snacks here that I'm gonna show you. So first is Greek yogurt. I've got Siggi's vanilla Greek yogurt here. Usually I get Oikos Pro Greek yogurts, which have 20 grams of protein, but they were out of that at the grocery store today. So this is a good backup. No fat in this yogurt, 11 carbs, and 16 grams of protein. I've had it before, it tastes pretty good, so that's what I'm going with this week. Now here I've got some Clif Bars. Now the reason I get these, I only get them when I'm in a lean bulking phase and actually trying to gain weight because they're very high in carbs, decent amount of fat for a bar, and a more moderate amount of protein. So they're not a high protein bar, 9 grams of protein, 42 grams of carbs, and 7 grams of fat. So having one of these before my workout, which is predominantly a carb source, it makes it easier to reach those 380 grams of carbs. And then here I've got some sauces that I put on those meats because I'm not an experienced chef by any means. What I do is I cook up those meats and we literally just add a different sauce to it each time just to spice it up a little bit. So here we've got honey barbecue sauce. Here we've got teriyaki sauce. And to be honest, not much thought goes into getting these, but what I did do was I looked at how much sodium was on them. So these options have relatively lower sodium per serving compared to a lot of the other options I saw. Now here what I've got is some water flavoring mix-ins. Got a grape flavor from Propel with a little bit of electrolytes, and a green tea with honey one. Now both of these are all natural flavors. There's no artificial flavors in them, and I'm definitely not against artificial sweeteners if you're using them in moderation, just like anything else. But what I realized was I'm drinking a lot of water. I'm drinking 1.5 gallons or more per day. And if I'm using this with every single time I drink water, that might be enough frequency that I might want to limit the artificial sweeteners a little bit. So I've been going with ones that are only flavored naturally. What I've got here are potatoes from the Little Potato Company, which is really good. 18 grams of carbs per serving, no fat. Got a couple grams of fiber in there and some protein. We really like these. They're easy to make and they taste great. And then here I've got some roasted almonds. So this is something, again, I usually pretty much will never get in a fat loss phase when my calories are much more limited. The reason I have these are basically as a backup to have in the cabinet if I'm, having a day where it's 9, 10 o'clock at night and I'm behind 15 or 20 or 30 grams of fat and I've already eaten dinner and I'm not really trying to cook something. There's 13 grams of fat per serving, 9 carbs, and 5 protein, so it's a really good fat source. It's also got a couple grams of fiber in there, so these I use as a backup. I also got one of these olive oil cooking sprays. Now these aren't necessarily 0 calories, even though that's what it says on the nutrition label, but for this entire can, you're probably looking at a decent amount of calories, maybe a couple hundred calories for the entire can. So it's definitely not 0, but it's way better than if you were to cook with butter or with oil calorie-wise, where you're gonna rack up hundreds of calories every time you cook. With this, it's probably 20 or 30 calories every time you use it. Now, a few foods that I always keep around that I just didn't need this week are things like honey, because you can put honey on other foods you're eating for some additional carbs. And when you're eating a lot of carbs, it's nice to have foods that can add additional calories and carbs to your day without having to eat more volume of food, right? So what I can do is put my Greek yogurt on some rice cakes, which is something I also still have here. I put them on chocolate rice cakes. I drizzle some honey on it, and it's a great snack. Maybe I put those blueberries on top. That's a great snack. I also have frozen vegetables here in the freezer that I always have stocked up because you put them in the microwave for 2 minutes and they're ready to go, and all of a sudden you've got a nice, well-balanced meal with vegetables and micronutrients and vitamins that didn't require cooking ahead of time. If you're getting value from this video and if you like seeing all these things and options that I eat, feel free to subscribe to my channel because I make new videos just like this every week. And let me know in the comments what you think. Are any of these foods staples in your weekly grocery list as well? I'd love to see what we have in common. Maybe if there's anything that you picked up from this video that you're gonna add into your rotation now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.